Look at this. Look at this. Look what we got. We're here.
We're here.
We're doing it.
I'm here with Heath Corson in the green room at C2E2. It's
Well,
the last
hello.
day.
It's the last day. That's why my voice sounds like this.
How's the convention been for you?
It's spectacular. I'm from Chicago. I love this convention so much. It's so much fun. People are always great. I love the outfits, and they're enthusiastic about comics, as I was when I used to come to these kinds of conventions.
It's a true hometown show for you.
It is. It is. I've been telling everybody, Chicago's favorite son returns.
Yes, he comes back. We were chatting a little bit before we started rolling about how you kind of forayed into DC Comics originally. And
Yeah.
it's such a cool story. How, could you just reiterate how you got into that?
Well, sure. One of the first things I did was I did theater in Chicago for years and years. And
What a great place to do that.
Right? And the last thing I did was an adaptation of Jill Thompson's Scary Godmother comic, and we adapted it to the stage with Jill, and people really took to it, and we ended up getting to do a animated special called Scary Godmother's Halloween Spooktacular, and that took me to Los Angeles. And then when I was doing some of my animated work, I asked an editor if I could write a comic book, and he was like, well, what do you got? And I was like, I don't know, how about this? And they kept telling me, nope,
Shut it down.
Nope, shut it down. And my last pitch was like, it's Bizarro and Jimmy Olsen in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. And they were like, do that one.
Signed. Do
Yeah.
it. And that came out in 2016?
2016.
That's one of my all-time favorite movies. So
it's the best.
Such a good throwback.
It's the best.
A good Midwestern, as we're talking about Chicago.
That's
just a good
right.
Midwestern city.
That's right.
You know, speaking of all things DC, you got to be a writer for Assault on Arkham.
Did.
How did you approach writing such a legendary character, and what became such an amazing story arc in the animated series?
Well, thank you for that. It was actually a really interesting thing, because they came to me, and I had done a couple of the other movies at that point.
Yes.
And they said, we want to do a Batman movie with the Suicide Squad. And I said, how about it's a Suicide Squad movie with Batman? And they were like, well, how would that work? And I was like, well, and I had played the games at this point.
Yeah, the Arkham
and I said,
games.
what's great about the Arkham games is you are Batman. So the movie is never going to give you a better experience than being Batman.
Being that detective, being the private eye.
Just being powerful,
Yes.
right? But in the games, Batman swings down, beats up everyone, and then swings off. And I was like,
he's gone.
What if the camera pans back down to everyone that he beat up, and that's where we stay? And so that's how we sort of introduced the Suicide Squad, and we were like, oh, this will be really interesting. And then we have Batman. So basically the idea was the player plays Batman, interweaves a little bit into the story, but it's not Batman's story.
It's the Suicide Squad.
It's the Suicide Squad story.
That's so unique, especially for that time. Arkham games were red hot.
Yes.
There was kind of that tie-in with the movie and the series. Did you know that there was going to be all of this tie-in when it was going into production?
Well, one of the things I had to take a lot of notes was from the video game people, because they wanted to make sure it fit into their world, because the Arkhamverse is very specific.
So is this Rocksteady you were going back and forth with?
It was Rocksteady. I had to take, we had to do a lot of notes and pitch, and they had to read everything, and we wanted to make sure that we were pulling the same voice. So our version of the Penguin is the same version of the Penguin that's in the Arkham games.
So it all ties together.
So it all tied in, yeah.
That's awesome. And so you kind of had an inkling going into production then that, hey, this is going to be part of this universe.
That's right.
And that must have been fun, because those are just such great beat-em-up, stealth, PI. You are a detective, you are...
Some of the best games I've ever played. And here's the thing. I buy them every time they come up for the new system. Every time I'm like, I'm going to buy this for the PS5 again.
I think I have it on 5 systems, the PC, the Switch. I want it on the Switch so I can take it on the go. I want it on my PC so I can have it in my up-rendered monitor. It's that kind of game.
I feel ya. It's that thing. You're like, I got to have it. I got to keep playing it. And it holds up. The games hold up.
It's been over a decade now since the first one, and here we are still raving about it.
It's so good. Paul Dini, I think, wrote those games. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
They're so smart.
Just so many good twists. Just you felt like you were playing through a comic book. You were
totally.
a PI.
Yes, exactly.
So speaking of mysteries and all of that, you also got a really cool opportunity to write on the MTV adaptation of Scream.
I did.
Classic horror franchise.
Yes.
Staple pillar of the slasher genre.
Yes.
I always say they're not horror movies, they're a whodunit because it just takes you in so many directions.
That's really smart. That's really interesting. It's a whodunit where you just can knock off the private eyes at any time.
Exactly.
There's a body count.
So how was that stepping into that role if you have a classic franchise and now we're kind of putting a twist on it, modernizing it a little bit?
Well, first of all, it's a huge responsibility, right?
Yes.
Because I'm a big fan of the Scream movies, right?
Wes
and you want to do them justice.
You want to hold it up.
Exactly. And yet we had completely new characters and a completely new situation. So you still want to be able to play in the same tone and yet have these characters. I came on in season 2, which is rough because this has already happened once before.
You're jumping in halfway.
And also you want to start giving a lot of like interesting character stuff. So like, because the minute you drop a body, nobody cares who you're taking to prom. So you can't really do any of that anymore. So you're like, okay, what's some ways around that? And I remember one thing that we really liked was we hid the first body. So the audience knows someone is dead, but the characters don't know that yet. And so that was one of the really smart things. I think we hit it to like episode 3.
It held off for a while. It was, it was that fun aspect of the audience knows what's going on.
Yes.
The characters still
The characters don't. Yeah, and you're going, oh no, get out of there.
You're yelling at the TV. You're
in that sense, we did capture the Scream sort of essence, where you're going like, oh my God, I know what's gonna happen. Go, go, go.
You know what's gonna happen, and then you don't. So how do you, you've written on so many amazing legacy Batman, Scream. You've even done stuff with video games like through Master Chief, through Scream. How do you creatively get into that role versus when you're doing something original? You were hanging out with everybody with Minor Threats, with the Brood comic.
That's right.
Completely different. I would imagine you're going from new characters, new original everything, to legacy characters that people have an attachment to. How do you find yourself in a different creative space when you're doing one or the other?
That's a really good question. One of the first things I do when you take those sorts of characters is you gotta have to sort through like, what's my favorite aspects of them, you know? Because typically you'll have maybe dozens of years with these characters, different writing teams, different whatever, so you have to go like, okay, what speaks to me and what can I bring to it? You know, like if you're gonna do Batman, what kind of Batman story are you doing? Are you doing Dark Knight Vigilante? Are you doing detective? Are you doing a father and son story? Are you doing like my arch nemesis? Are you doing an origin? Like which one speaks to you the most?
What's that angle you're gonna take?
What angle are you gonna take? And moreover, like what are you able to bring to it as someone who's trying to be creative in the space, right? And so that's sort of where I start, especially with those big brands, is like, okay, what do I like about this character? What do I not like about the character? Where's the weakness? What can we lean on and go like, ooh, how come no one's talked about this yet?
That's an interesting angle, because I feel like we all attach to these characters and maybe we have a blind spot. So what's the weakness?
And the character has a blind spot, inevitably. So if you could lean on that weakness, then maybe you could do a really interesting story that has some resonance.
That's such a good point. And that's a complete 180 than writing something from scratch, like with Minor Threats, with Brood. It's a complete 180, I'm sure.
Yes, so the Brood is my Minor Threats spinoff about Napoleon Archimedes, who is the world's greatest arch-villain, and Arch is the Searcher, and his story with his children. So it's a little bit of Wes Anderson. It's very much like Royal Tenenbaums, right?
Yes,
Because I saw Royal Tenenbaums and I went, oh, this is the continuing story of Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor, who had 3 kids and tried to turn them into supervillains. And that sort of became the Brood.
So that was kind of the inspiration behind it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, we have a little bit left at the convention. It's a great time here. Where can people catch up with you when you're not on con floor?
The best place to get me is on Instagram. I'm at H Corson. I show a lot of pictures of stuff I'm doing, a bunch of stuff of things that I'm cooking, and my dog. So if you like cute dog pictures, that's where to catch up with me.
Who doesn't like cute dog pictures?
Right?
Come on. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Dominic, this is great. Thank you.
Hope you have a great rest of your C2E2. Welcome back to your hometown con.
Thank you.